Was a very
Hold on.
okay.
And we welcome you back to another edition of the Talk Shop in Studio 255. I'm Eric Henderson, and this is Wyoming's Hometown Voice and the Candidate Awareness Tour 2026, just one of our segments. Today, a citizen's comment with Barbara Green. Welcome, Barbara.
Yes, sir. Thank
Good to
you.
have you. We talked last segment about we talked about the governor's race. We talked about the Secretary of State's race. We talked about U.S. Congress and your favorites. But we most importantly talked about issues that were of the most concern and interest for you. And we talked. I was pretty impressed with your vetting that you do with respect to your candidates. You not only you attend forums, but you do more than that. Tell us about that and recap what efforts you went in and put in to finding the candidates that you will vote for on August 18th.
Whenever a candidate announces for whatever race it is, I check their bios and then I research. I research if they're a legislator, what their voting record has been. If they're a legislator in Wyoming, have I met them? Because I'm frequently in Cheyenne. Well, every legislative session, I am down there. I think about the times as a newspaper person that I've reached out to them and how responsive they have been just for that. And then I look at people that are supporting them and speak to them as well and figure out why they're supporting them. I sometimes call those people, and if they're people that I already know, then that's one thing I fear. But I have reached out to perfect strangers and say, I've noticed that you are supporting this candidate. Can you tell me why? That's what I do. And most importantly, I get on the phone with the candidate and say, I have to meet you in person so that we can look in each other's eyes and see how we feel and if I can trust you.
If you want my vote, these are my terms, huh?
Yes, sir. And
Nice.
yeah, I put him through. And it's a nice interview. I'm not mean. I question him. We don't always agree. Sometimes the interactions with them that I've had in Cheyenne also to play a part, and watching how they represent on the floor, how they are representing their constituents, or are they representing a particular group, or are they representing themselves? All factor into who I choose.
Well, I like hearing the steps that you go through. I think the world of the clarity that you have in what candidates must do to earn your vote. And one of the criteria that I have is when I extend invitations to all candidates, and some don't even respond. Now I'm in the media, so I have this feeling like I want people to have the opportunity to learn the most about every candidate so that they can go to the polls the best informed possible.
Agree.
And 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 I have the slogan. I have the slogan that the class the campaign trail runs through our classroom. And Studio 255 is formerly, many years ago, a mathematics classroom. And it's a unique environment, but amazingly, more than half of the field in local, county, state, and federal races do not even respond. What do you think of that?
It makes you not want to trust them. If they're not going to respond to us as a media, first and foremost, and then second as a constituent, because I typically will reach out both ways based on my job. And I agree with you. If they're not willing to respond to either, then how am I going to know that they are going to respond if they get elected? Our government teacher was Mrs. Jeans back in Arlington, Virginia. I graduated in 1976. She made government touchable for us. That those lessons, by taking us to the Capitol and sitting above the House and sitting above the Senate, watching bills being made, doing mock debates, going to fake elections, as far as going through the process within our school to know what to expect, really put an impact on most of us from that class. In 1976, I was so excited that I turned 18 in time to be able to vote for Gerald Ford. I've been a Republican all my life. My favorite president is Richard Nixon. And you know what? I wrote President Nixon when I was 15 years old during the Watergate scandal, and he responded.
That's fantastic. I want to see the pin. You talked
Oh,
about this morning, you talked about a pin that you still have. Where did you get that pin?
I
It was
have
a
two.
Richard Nixon pin, right?
Yes, I have two campaign pins from 1960. I did not vote then. However, I had done some work for Senator Enzi as a volunteer, and he found them and gave them to me before he passed away.
How meaningful is that to you?
You can't look at those pins and not think about Senator Enzi, that he took the time to do something that he knew would mean a lot to me, says a lot about him.
I I I really appreciate in the heat and crisis of Nixon's administration to hear that he did write you back, that he had that wherewithal and that commitment, that he or his staff, I as I've grown older, I know that staff write many of the response letters and so forth, but there are many administrations that don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They
I
just do
was
not.
I remember rushing home from school and watching the Watergate hearings on our big black and white TV and being appalled at that age at some of the actions of our legislators, the hate, the lies, the pumping themselves up to look good. That's why I extra despise some of the stuff that we see coming into our election, that people aren't just standing on what they believe, they're having to rip down the opponent to make themselves better.
When
No.
it comes to your role in media and your role as an individual voter, I I really appreciate your sharing that experience with some candor because I too roll that same consideration. And with radio, print, digital media today, it becomes an important consideration
It truly
what
does.
you do and what you don't.
And being a person that was in radio for 10 years and listening here in Wyoming and listening to some of those ads that went after candidates way back in the 90s and early 2000s, it again reinforced what Mrs. Jeans taught us, that you go forth on yourself, you don't go forth on tearing others down.
Yeah, stand on your merit. You know, very nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I have to share with you that as in the last 10 years, I've researched more administration after administration, and time and history have served President Nixon quite well. In
Yes.
spite in spite of the actions taken where he resigned his presidency, I I still find him to be one of the more impressive administrations with public policy and his individual character as a former president.
Yes, sir.
Quite remarkable. And if you think you can go through life and not face adversity, happiness isn't the absence of conflict, it's how you deal with conflict. It's really how you carry yourself through the worst of times that tell you the true picture of who somebody is. So I think higher of President Nixon, especially after the more I learn.
Yes, sir. It was an honor to be at the opening of his presidential library in Whittier. Oh gosh, back in the 90s, I got to go that, and there was four other presidents that had been there, and it was just even watching himself conduct himself there was another reason why he's my favorite president.
Pretty remarkable, huh? That's
Yes, sir.
that's 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 wonderful. And when I think about the opportunity that you had to go to that opening, where was that at? Where was that opening up
It was
the
in
library?
Whittier. It was in Whittier, California, Arcadia. That's where he grew up, and it was pretty awesome because Ford was there and Bush was there. It was just one of those things that you'll never forget, and it was a nice opportunity to see that it in this case history was remembering him or honoring him for the things that he did while he was our president.
Well, I can't wait to know where you stand with the state of Wyoming Superintendent of Public Instruction. What's your
Oh,
analysis? What's your analysis of that race?
Steve Harshman, Representative Harshman, he is one that I've watched on the floor for years as a representative. Did a lot of research on him about his coaching and his parts in education. Had met him previously to talk to him when I was in Cheyenne about issues facing our smaller schools, and he really has a handle on that. He knows education, and he's always conducted himself on that floor with integrity. He easily won my vote.
And when it comes to candidates showing up, we have had the opportunity to visit with Steve Harshman, and we've had the opportunity to visit with several others of the candidates that you mentioned. And we remain open to candidates taking the opportunity to join us on the candidate awareness tour. This is an open forum. It's an introduction to every candidate that takes us up on the invitation. All they have to do is invest their time, and we will make that happen. And you have done wonderfully joining us here on the program. I thank you for joining us here on the Talk Shop.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity, and please vote
Get
August
out to
20th.
vote. The best vote is an informed vote. And Barbara
Yes,
Green,
sir.
you've been a
Yes, sir.
delight, and I look
Oh, thank
forward
you,
to
sir.
staying in touch.
Thank you.